Ah, winter. That magical time of the year when the roads turn into ice rinks, shoveling becomes an upper body workout, and your car becomes a popsicle overnight. For most of us, snow's a seasonal inconvenience. A light dusting here, a snowstorm there. But for some lucky folks across the US, snow isn't just a nuisance, it's a lifestyle. Here's a picture of my fur grandson this week in the snow. Yes, that's the big boy. He's living through a snowstorm right now. Whenever I mention winter weather on this channel, people always pop into the comment section to claim their town is the snowiest in the nation. So I decided to do some research and find out which cities actually receive the most snow on average according to the National Centers for Environmental Information. Keep in mind, these are cities, not towns or small towns, which there are a handful of those who beat these cities by a good stretch. Today we're counting down the 15 snowiest cities in the United States. Got it? Get it? Good. Let's take a look. Number 15, Burlington, Vermont. The winter wonderland where the snow falls with the same enthusiasm as a Labrador seeing its owner after 5 minutes apart. Every year, Mother Nature decides to gift this charming little city with an absurd amount of snow, averaging around 70 to 80 inches, apparently because just 1 or 2 picturesque dustings wouldn't be enough. No, Burlington needs relentless blizzards, lake effect flurries, and nor'easters that dump more snow in a weekend than some places get all year. Forget driving unless you enjoy turning your car into an ice sculpture, and say goodbye to your driveway for 6 months a year. But at least the city's snowplows get their workout in. The locals have perfected the fine art of shoveling while questioning all of their life choices to this point. Now, one thing about snowfall averages, there's several different studies that have different numbers, and that all depends on where they actually measured the snowfall in the city. Like I said, we're going by the official government one, and here's theirs. The average snowfall in Burlington, Vermont is 72.5 inches. Now that's the average over the last 20 years. Their record snowfall was 132 inches, 2007. Worcester, Mass. Worcester gets hammered by nor'easters, those delightful storms that turn your driveway into a snow sculpture. If you like historical charm mixed with seasonal hypothermia, this is your spot. This is a city where the snow just doesn't fall. It moves in, unpacks its bags, and starts forwarding its mail. Every year, this city gets buried under a ridiculous amount of snow. It's almost like Mother Nature's trying to remind the residents who's boss. And this isn't just a few flurries or dustings. This city gets hammered, and the streets turn into luge tracks, sidewalks into endurance courses. Your car, it's gone till April. Shovels, broken in combat. Plow comes by with a gift of a fresh 3-foot wall of despair. Enjoy. Worcester's annual snowfall over the last 20 years averages around 72.9 inches. Their record snowfall was 121 inches, and that happened the winter between 92 and 93. South Bend, Indiana. South Bend is a place where snow isn't just a seasonal occurrence. It's like that loser cousin that comes over and he's going to stay for like 2 or 3 days till his apartment is ready, but it turns into like a 6-month thing of him being on the couch, eats up all your good food and replaces it with generic stuff. Yes, it's that annoying. Every year, Mother Nature dumps an absurd amount of the frozen menace on this unsuspecting city, as if she's personally offended by Hoosiers. Forget measuring it in inches. South Bend needs a measurement of depression and frustration. By mid-January, cars become a mythical creature, only spoken of in legend. And sidewalks? Ha! Those were a summer illusion. The city gamely attempts to clear the roads, but it seems like a never-ending game of whack-a-mole. You clear one street, another one's just had 2 feet dumped on it. And just when you think you've survived the worst, congratulations, it's only February. The 20-year average for snowfall in South Bend is 70 inches. Their record snowfall was 156 inches in a season, and that was the 1978 season. Number 12, Bozeman, Montana. Bozeman is kind of interesting. I think they appreciate the cold weather and the snow because it chases away non-locals. Do yourself a favor, never show up in Bozeman with a tan in January. They'll know you're from Arizona or California. But if you ever wanted to live in a snow globe, Bozeman is calling you. This picturesque city proves that Montana isn't just for cowboys, it's about cowboys with snow shovels. Every year, Bozeman gets buried in almost 75 inches of snow, which is terrific if you're a skier, a snowboarder, a shoveling enthusiast, a snowman, or a polar bear. For everyone else, it's a frosty endurance test. And don't think about complaining to the locals about the snow. They'll hit you with this. Oh, this is nothing. You should have seen the blizzard '96. Sure, Bozeman, we get it. You like to flex your snow game. Over the last 20 years, the average snowfall in Bozeman, Montana has been 73 inches. Bozeman's record snowfall, I've seen two. One has it at 143, the other one has it at 159. Either way, it happened in 1975. Number 11, Anchorage, Alaska. Yeah, Alaska has to show up here, right? Oddly enough, they don't have that many on this list. It is our most northern state. You'd think they'd be all over this one. But you know what's really strange? I didn't notice too many from Minnesota either. And while researching this, I found out Minnesota overall, they have more cities and small towns that get above 50 inches, but it's not too often a city on average hits over 90 or 100 or something like that. Strange. Anyway, Anchorage, Alaska. Surprisingly, Anchorage doesn't top the list. Proof that even Alaska has overachieving cousins in the lower 48. Thanks to its mountains, Anchorage offers stunning views and a whole lot of shoveling. I always thought, you wouldn't want to be living in, Anchorage or Alaska and have to shovel snow. That's about the time a bear would come up and grab you. But then it occurred to me, they're probably hibernating then because they're smart. They don't deal with the cold weather. They're like my wife when I start rambling with something weird. I'm not dealing with this nonsense and she goes to another room. Yes, I have a tendency to ramble. The average snowfall over the last 20 years in Anchorage, Alaska is 77.9 inches. Their record snowfall was 2011 to 2012 and that was 134 inches. 134.5 to be exact. And just last year, 23 to 24, they got 133 inches. Number 10, Juneau, Alaska. Not to be outdone by Anchorage, Juneau combines breathtaking fjords and snowfall that'll test your will to leave the house. Every year, this city gets buried in over 90 inches of snow, which is fantastic if you have a really nice snowmobile. I've been to Juneau a few times in the last 2 years. I love that town. I've never been during the height of the winter. I've always been, in the summer months where it's kind of cold, a lot of rainy, but no snow while I was there. Well, a couple flakes. That was about it. If you ever do visit Juneau, there's two parts to this city. There's the cruise port part of Juneau, and then there's a real part of Juneau. Keep that in mind. If you ever do take a cruise to Alaska that's going to Juneau, in the morning you'll be heading into Juneau. Make sure you wake up early because it is absolutely beautiful. Probably the last 2 hours before you actually get into town, or at least before the cruise ship gets into town. Now, Juneau is surrounded by water, mountains, and a lot of wilderness. I've heard before that it's the only state capital you can't get to by car. It has to be plane or boat. I think Hawaii is the same situation, but in Hawaii you can get to other good-sized cities. There's a couple villages around Juneau on the outskirts, but that's it. And you'll spend months at a time wearing like 6 pairs of socks. The average seasonal snowfall over the last 20 years is 93.3 inches in Juneau. Their record is mind-blowing. In the 1994-95 winter, they had 212 inches of snow. Number 9, Duluth, Minnesota. Duluth is one of those cities that's so far north that they actually have the same accent as Canadians. And it sits right on Lake Superior, so with the lake effect and all that, it's going to get some serious snow. I love the coastline between Canada and Duluth. You run into places called Knife River, Castle Danger, and of course, Beaver Bay. While I was researching this, I found a man who said he'd lived in Duluth for over 25 years. He said they had so much snow every single year, he shoveled so much, that it probably would have been easier just to build a second floor to his house so he could see out over the snowpack. The average seasonal snowfall in Duluth is 94.2 inches. Their record snowfall was 1950 and they got 168.1 inches. Number 8, Boulder, Colorado. Boulder definitely gets some snow. I've been here before during the snow and I fell on my back. I mean, didn't even land on my butt. Legs went out from underneath me, landed flat on my back. But this amazing city is at the base of the Rockies. Boulder enjoys the perfect storm of altitude and moisture. This is a paradise for hikers, skiers, and people that think shoveling is a great way to bond with your neighbors. Doing something you hate is not a bonding experience, unless you signed up for it, you know. I'm not into that kind of abuse, though. That's not my thing. I saw some short video of some guy had made a flamethrower and he used to do the sidewalks in his driveway. Then the city made him stop. What kind of world are we living in when a guy in his garage-built flamethrower can't enjoy a little snow melting? Like 2 days ago, parts of Boulder were hit with 14 inches of snow. I was looking at the chart of that, so one part got 14 inches, another part got 11 inches, and then another part got 6 inches. And that's like I was saying earlier, that depending on where you measure the snow in any city, you're going to have different numbers come out. That's why I'm getting this from the U.S. government, and you might find other things like the state might have measured it someplace else, so you'll see different numbers. But for the most part, they're pretty close. Boulder, Colorado's annual snowfall average is 94.8 inches, and their record snowfall was 159 inches. That was back in 2020. In 1921, April 15th to be exact, they had 1 day of snow, 76 inches. That's over 6 feet of snow. Number 7, Buffalo, New York. Now, Buffalo is really strange because I always hear that it's the snowiest city in the U.S. I've also heard that about Rochester, but in reality, it's not. I mean, it is in the top 10. That's a solid number, but it's just not the snowiest city in the United States. They get a good amount of snow, and a lot of it has to do with being right there on Lake Erie. Even right now, Buffalo's getting hit pretty hard with snow. These are the headlines there. Blinding snow squalls and thunder snow pack a winter punch in Buffalo, New York. Here's another one. Intense snow squalls seen in the Buffalo area. They're under a winter storm warning till the 30th at least. But this isn't unusual for winter in Buffalo. You ever watch a Buffalo Bills football game in November or December? But the average snowfall in Buffalo, New York over the last 20 years is 95.4 inches. Their record snowfall, 199 inches. That happened in the winter of 1976. I was actually in Buffalo and Rochester, meeting family members for the first time that year, during the summer though. Number 6, Erie, Pennsylvania. Yep, just down the road from Buffalo, you find Erie, Pennsylvania. And right about now, the number 1 Google search in Erie, Penn is tropical vacation, Bahamas, or Caribbean. When everything gets frozen, people start dreaming about other places, and they want to know how they can get there as quick as they can. Erie's the type of place where you wake up one morning in January, look out your front door, and think, well, I guess I'm tunneling to work today. Just in case you're wondering, it is snowing right now in Erie, Pennsylvania. Guess what? It's snowing again tomorrow, and on Friday, Saturday they get a break, Sunday they get a little break, and then they're back to the snow. It's like Mother Nature took the weekend off. This is another place where the lake effect is in full force. Erie's definitely a place where cross-country skiing gets people to work more often than you think. The average snowfall in Erie, Pennsylvania is 101.3 inches, and their record snowfall is 166.3 inches. That happened in the winter of 2007-2008. Number 5, Rochester, New York. I got a lot of family up there, and I've heard all the stories about the snow. They get some weather. Lake Ontario works overtime here, blessing Rochester with a steady flow of snow. If you're into winter sports, great. If you're not, congratulations, you've just acquired a new winter sport, driveway excavation. I often wonder how many people in Rochester actually own snowshoes. When I say snowshoes, I'm not just talking about the ones you put in the garage till you go camping someplace. Rochester is basically in a committed relationship with lake effect snow, meaning storms roll in off Lake Ontario and then they just stay there. Blizzards? Check. Ice storms? Absolutely. Soul-crushing gray skies for months on end? You bet. The snow piles up so high in this city that street signs become more of a suggestion. I was looking at a list of days that they had over 15 inches of snow, just single days, and throughout their history, this is a very common occurrence. But their average seasonal snowfall is 104.2 inches. Their record snowfall is 161.5 inches, and that was the 1959-1960 winter. Number 4, Flagstaff, Arizona. This one is really strange because most people think of Arizona, they just imagine Tucson or they imagine Phoenix, and that's it. It's hard for outsiders to understand that there actually is mountains in Arizona. When you visit, you'll see them and think, oh yeah, they can get some snow up there, I'm sure. They got a few places like that, but Flagstaff goes above and beyond what you'd expect from a state like Arizona. This one just recently, I had a guy that kind of what spurred this video was at a guy arguing over and over that Flagstaff is the snowiest city in the US. They're up there, but they're not even the snowiest city on the western part of the United States. But Flagstaff's altitude ensures that it gets dumped on every single winter, proving that even desert states have a frosty sense of humor. The average seasonal snowfall in Flagstaff, Arizona is 112.1 inches. Their record snowfall was 153.7 inches, and that happened back in 1948 and 49 winter. Number 3, Syracuse, New York. Good old Syracuse, the reigning champion of upstate New York's Golden Snowball Award. Thanks to Lake Ontario's lake effect snow, residents enjoy the privilege of scraping ice off their windshields from October through May. Thinking about moving here? Invest in snow pants and lots of them. And no, they're not right on Lake Ontario. They're a little bit inland, but they've got a lot of lakes around them, and Lake Ontario does play into that. Syracuse is a typical city, but this is part of the country that's just amazing. The Finger Lakes area. If you ever want a vacation during the summer, go up here. The average seasonal snowfall in Syracuse is 124.8 inches. Their record snowfall happened back in 2008 to 2009. It was 192.1 inches, and I saw another report that said it was 207.1. Number 2, Marquette, Michigan. Ever heard of it? It is a city of over 21,000 people, and it also sits on Lake Superior in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And that makes Marquette the snow blanket star of Michigan's Upper Peninsula, where the locals measure snowdrifts by how much their car antenna is visible. This is the type of place where you and your friends go sledding in the snow, and you find a little hill you don't remember, and then you realize once you're on top of it that it's actually somebody's roof. Michigan, like Minnesota, is filled with a lot of smaller cities and smaller towns that have epic snowfall. It's just this part of the country. What really blew me away on this list that Green Bay didn't make the top 15. They're actually number 16. But yeah, you'd think Michigan, Minnesota, and Wisconsin would just fill up this list. The average snowfall in Marquette, Michigan is 149.1 inches. Their record snowfall was a mind-boggling 297.1 inches, and that happened in the winter of 2002 to 2003. Mind-blowing. I can't imagine that much snow. All right, before we get to number 1, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so. There's a link for that and a little bell notification. If you click that, they'll give you the heads up when we upload again. At least that's what YouTube says. It's really sort of a maybe thing. I guess they don't want you to be bombarded with them. If you hit the bell notification on like 200 channels, they just pick a few each day to send you notices of. All right, on to number 1. And number 1. Truckee, California. Mind blown. I was blown away on the numbers, and if you've never heard of Truckee, it is a beautiful city in the Sierra Nevadas. This city has some winter history. You ever heard of the Donner Party? They actually got stuck in the snow here back in the 1800s and resorted to cannibalism. Yeah, they thought they could just press through these Sierra Nevadas without a problem and wouldn't, they'll just make it out the other side. Didn't work out that way for them. Truckee is not too far from Lake Tahoe and Reno, Nevada. And if you ever take the California Zephyr out of San Francisco or Chicago, going either way, you'll go through Truckee, California. It's a beautiful city. I think if I ever moved back to California, Truckee is probably one of the first places I'd look into. Sort of got that old West vibe, but this place gets some snow. Now, Truckee is in the mountains, and up in the hills where some of the neighborhoods are, they've had some insane snow numbers over the years. The average seasonal snowfall in Truckee, California is 200 inches of snow. Now this one, in every single report, has two different numbers because it's kind of built on a hillside and it's in the mountains. But here's the one the government gives. The average seasonal snowfall is 200 inches. That's nuts. Their record-breaking year was back in 1950. And it was 400 inches of snow. The Donner Pass, where the Donner Party ended, there's one report that in the 1930s, The Donner Pass, which is right there, got 817 inches of snow in 1 year. Truckee is weird. There was so many different reports and all different numbers. It was really, really weird. But that's what the government says. All right, that's today's video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, you probably enjoy one of the two videos being shown right now. Everybody have a great day. Be nice to each other.